Hello, everybody. Welcome to 2024, and we're glad to see everybody here. And today I thought we would start off on a new trend where we start to get things moving forward, have more videos in place. So please pay attention to the videos go live. If you are following me on YouTube, like and subscribe and hit that fancy little bell. That way you see when I go live. I do hope to get things started more on a consistent basis. But the bottom line is I can't always guarantee what it is. And for me, my goal for 2024 is to get the video out, not so much worry about when it comes out. So I hope this helps and gets better and more consistent for everybody. And we add value through 2024. So welcome everybody. Again, today's topic is going to be, I think, 5-ish technologies I want us to be paying attention to in 2024. Now, if you listened to the end of the year one, I brought J-Man, I brought Marquis Lemons, and I brought Carrie Little with me to talk about what they thought the predictions were going to be for tech and stuff like that in 2024. So now what I want to do is make sure that when we look at this, we start talking about, how do we use some of this stuff? How do we look at identifying what goes on in place for this and make sure that this makes sense for you, right? So we're going to talk about a couple basic topics in here. We're going to talk about AI because you know what? You just can't get away from it. You can't get away from AI to save your life. We're going to talk about AR and VR as well as blockchain because I think that's going to be a player this year for sure. I'm also going to talk a little bit about cybersecurity because I do think, again, that's one of the conversations we just can't stay away from. And then at the very end, we'll talk a little bit about big data. So those are the kind of the 5 tech trends that I think we need to be looking out for and watching in the world today. So to get this started, I'm just going to jump right into it. We're going to jump in and we're going to talk about AI and machine learning. It is the hottest topic out there. It's the hottest trend in there. You see everybody and their brother talking about AI. Rightfully so, right? It is changing the world. We had artists, script writers out in California or wherever they were from do a union strike, because they wanted to make sure their collective content was secured. And they won a little bit on that, right? So it's there. But AI is more than just using someone's data. Now, AI for the world is taking as much of the information, it's machine learning, right? So it's taking as much of the information that it can gather and trying to learn from it. That is the trick to AI. There are a lot of programs that are out there that use the terminology AI, and they're just not AI. They are incredibly impressive technologies, impressive algorithm, great programming that do amazing things. But they're not AI. They're not learning. They're not self-learning. For me, I'll give you always the big example that I will determine as AI, and that is Watson, right? The big IBM computer that was continually teaching itself chess. And when it first started doing things in the early portions of it, it could not beat grandmasters. And then at the very end, it did so much so that grandmasters basically refused to play it because it was not unbeatable, but quote unquote unbeatable. So that's AI, right? AI is artificial intelligence, something that's learning and continue moving on. So how are we going to use AI in our business? How can we do that? Well, I think there's a couple ways that you can look to use AI in real estate and for what we're doing in our business. One, you can help it do some routine tasks, right? Some of the things that I use it for on a daily basis is helping me write better emails, help writing scripts out there, help doing those things that are in place. That's always great. Live video, and we have that. Stop. Well, that was fun. Hopefully I can edit that out. Um, so getting back to it, AI can help do some basic routines, right? You can have it do some basic steps for you that you don't want to do on a daily basis. Again, help writing email script, help writing campaigns for your business, help building some social media marketing solutions in place, help implementing that stuff, help generating some artwork that's out there. Now, please always understand there's still a lot of nuances in AI that we don't always completely understand. You're going to want to make sure that when you're doing this, we have to know more than the average bear. So when you're creating things, please understand that we have ethics, we have laws, we have fair housing, we have all sorts of things we have to be very, very conscious of when we're dealing with AI. So you do want to make sure that when you're building those kind of items in there and you're doing that, that you're staying legal and diverse and equitable, right? We want to make sure that we are staying in the mindset of our business and we're moving forward along that lines. So that's the first thing that we want to make sure that we are doing. That's just a basic AI. I would also recommend taking a lot of classes for a lot of people that are teaching that stuff. There are a lot of us out there teaching AI on a daily basis. Find the one that you work with and make sure you get that done. So that's the first and foremost. Second, I'm going to say is virtual reality and augmented reality. Now, virtual reality is those things where you can sit there and come into an environment and see real life through the lenses of goggles, right? For the lack of better terms. Now, an augmented reality is kind of like an overlay, right? So we're going to see the real world, but we're going to have an overlay and an environment over the top of that prospect, that property, right? So, like AR, one of the things that I always think that I think would be great in the AR world, if you have people out there, you could have your goggles on, right? There are getting glasses, sunglasses, things like that. You're actually, I don't know if you watch football, but there was a football commercial where a guy had a little lens over his face mask and he could see things pointing out to him. It was really fascinating. So, why couldn't we do that with AR, right? Why couldn't we have sunglasses or whatever, glasses? And when you walk around the home, when you're looking at it, it can point out the key feature so you don't miss something, right? That would be amazing for us. And also note when you got AI, it could actually start learning and pointing out things that it thinks you should point out to. So you got AR. I think that's one of the things to pay attention to is you're seeing it, right? Waze, a navigation app already has some AR to it already. I think you're going to see more and more this year come out as long as that goes. Now, VR is probably where it's going to be the biggest part this year. And when you look at VR, you're going to see photographers, companies like that are going to give you probably more and more VR tools that are out there. The most recent one that we're probably all fairly familiar with is a tool called Matterport. And there's all sorts of 3D visualization tools that are already in place working in this environment already. And when we look at this, you're going to see that, well, what VR can do for you is what Matterport is, just let's step back here a second. What Matterport is a tool that will scan a room and it will scan that room and then give you a layout, a true depiction of what that room looks like or what that house looks like. And with that, what you can see in there is the scales, right? You can see what the room feels like, what it looks like. And if you put VR goggles on, you could walk around the house without actually being in the house and you can get a real-time feel for it. Now, it's not going to be a perfect representation, but it's going to feel real pretty good. You're going to have a good effective spatial reasoning for this. So why can't you do something with VR if that's going to be part of it, virtual tours? Why couldn't you do like a VIP event, right? Host a showing, plan a broker tour showings for all the homes and let everybody see it without having to step in the house and interrupt people, or do the same thing, right? Have everybody come to your office and have a room that people can go through and walk through that stuff before they want to see the home, right? You could do VIP type events. Or if you wanted to, you could schedule those VIP events for people that are out there that go in place. So I think you're going to see more VR this year. Pandemic definitely helped us with that a little bit, but I don't think it's going anywhere. It's definitely going to come out to play and make a big. I think it's going to make it definitely a bigger splash this year. I think you're going to see more um, representation companies, virtual companies. When I was at the NAR convention this past year in November, there was a lot more 3D visualization tools out there. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that in place. Now, next thing I want to talk about is big data. So, in case you don't know the term big data exactly what it says. It's big data, right? It's talking about and taking that information that's at play that you have out there, right? All the data information you have about your clients, all the data information you have about properties, all the data information you have about an area, and trying to tie all that stuff together and bring specific insights that we may not think of, right? Again, it's using incredible programming and doing some predictive analytics and doing some big data analytics to help you understand what's going on, market trends, client needs, matchmaking type stuff that's out there. And you're seeing more and more CRMs, contact relation management tools, that are adding that in place on a daily basis. So you're going to see that more and more. Uh, Bear with me one second, folks. There we go. Uh, Sorry, just had to Tesco things out here. Looks like I was having some system issues. The weather has brought interesting times in place. So that's the one thing, right? That's the one thing that we have in there. You have big data. So how can we, again, what we can use it? Make sure you have your database full of your client information. Make sure that you're utilizing all of the property information that's available. Make sure that you can figure out what's going on, because their interaction in the systems that you have, their interactions that are going on in place, hiring analytics firms, that would be more of a brokerage level conversation typically, but hiring big data firms to do some big analytics that are out there, or look at your local MLS. Your local MLSs are a lot of times doing this analytics for you, at least about the trends in the market and what's going on. They're already in place. Also, listen to your state, your local, state, and national conventions, because they're taking a lot of this data and doing it for you. But you can do a lot of it in place for yourself. Um, Again, your CRMs are built for this. A lot of your CRMs are built to help do this. They'll have a green, red, yellow switch on there, letting you know the 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 intensity or hotness of a client's buying power or selling power, things like that. You're seeing a lot of that out there, and that's big data, right? So I would start to look, if you don't already have a CRM, if your CRM doesn't do it, see what they're doing, how they're adding it, when they're adding it, so you can start adding big data into your analytics to make sure you're going after not only your clients and you're talking to them on a consistent basis, but you're being strategic about the people that you are talking to on a daily basis. So that is your big data. Now, so we talked about virtual reality, we talked about AI, we talked about big data. So we haven't talked about blockchain, and we have not talked about cybersecurity. Well, let's talk about blockchain. When you have blockchain out there, one of the things I want you to think about in this regard. So let's take a step back. Sometimes I get a little too excited about some of these technology terms. Blockchain is, well, it's a very fancy program that essentially will encrypt your information through quote unquote blocks and chains, right? It does it in a rather fascinating way. It does it by having bits and pieces of information in there. So when it goes across the internet, it goes across and it doesn't go in one big piece. It comes in chunks. And this information has header information. It has footer information. It has all these data points that are in here that will help you manage your data, and it will manage and secure your transaction. It's designed for crypto transactions. Now, this does not mean, and it's been a common misconception, This is not specifically about cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency has most definitely used it the most, right? Most people know blockchain data because cryptocurrency has done it because it's a decentralized format, which means there's essentially no government involvement with it. Now, there are more governments using blockchain than ever before. So you're seeing it on a daily basis. But what blockchain is doing for you in layman's terms is going to be the ability to help manage and secure transactions, right? So some of the things that you're seeing predictions that come out this year, and I do think you'll see it to some degree. I think you'll start seeing transaction management software start using it more and more in their tools is what's considered smart contracts, right? So smart contracts are what if situations. For those of you who are programmers in the past, you know what I just said. For those of you who aren't, they're saying if action A happens, then process B starts, right? That's essentially what it's saying. Which means, right, if something gets signed, something initiates, it's going to send it over here, then it'll send over here. And this is all built into the blockchain transactional contracts that are in place for you, or can be anyways. So that's one way you can start using this. You can start looking for softwares that are using smart contracts and make them more and more efficient in your business in lining that stuff up. Again, some are already doing it. More and more will do it by the end of this year, for sure. I have no doubts about that. The other thing I like about blockchain is it does give you a bigger security and makes it a more transparent transaction. One of the things I'm going to talk about here in a second is cybersecurity is a major issue, and it's getting more and more robust every year. Just as much as we can use AI in our world for good, people can use AI in the world for bad. So you're seeing it happen in a big way. So I'm hoping more and more people jump on the blockchain environment because you're going to see more and more data happen that way and more transactions work through that process. So that's kind of what I will see that happens in there. And again, I'd be watching for them and making sure people have that in place. You could even do this for your office transaction stuff. You could do this for local and state associations could start managing that for different parts of their business, right? You can see that being done. And I think you're going to see more and more of that done in those places. Now, last but not least in the conversation today is cybersecurity. Now, I know it's never fun to talk about cybersecurity, but I do think it's one of the big ones. As I just literally hinted just a few seconds ago, you're going to see more and more of it. At the end of last year, I saw more and more companies getting breached because of phishing or things like that. So you're seeing more and more of that in place and more of that happening. Now, the reason I bring this up, because I think it's something to watch out for, is we all need to have strategies in place. And we all have to be more diligent in our world. Now, I do think sometime this year, there's going to be some AI tools out there to help make sure we don't make mistakes in cybersecurity attacks, cyber attacks. But until then, we're going to have to be relatively diligent in our process to make sure we don't get hacked, because they are getting extremely effective in our world of cyber in cyber attacks and cyber crimes. So just to give you a couple quick examples of what I mean by this. One, phishing is still one of the major attacks, and that's how most people get done. Phishing and ransomware are probably the two biggest common things that happen for most people. Phishing are random emails that go out and say, hey, by the way, thanks for buying this, and here's your receipt. Or, by the way, you renewed this, and here's this. Or, by the way, your password changed. If you weren't the one that did this, please click on this link and do this. Well, that's fine. Most emails were not written by native English-speaking folks. So when those emails were written, there was obvious flaws with them. So they were easy identifiers that you could say, yeah, that wasn't right. It's not right. Right. Well, just like I can use an AI to rewrite an email so it sounds better and clearer and more insightful and more motivating and more inspirational and more whatever, so can the bad guys. So it's harder for us to detect that. Now, that's not the only way to detect phishing attacks and things like that, but it's there. Now, once people got in and did the phishing attacks, one of the things that happened in place is when you did that, Now they would do one of a couple things. One, they would make you log into a fake website and get your login credentials, and now they can use them anywhere they want. Or if you clicked on the wrong link, sometimes they just uploaded bad malicious software. If they uploaded bad malicious software, they would just randomly, when they wanted to, lock down your computer, and now you were locked out, right? And just for whatever dollars that were there, they would lock you out, and you couldn't get back into your machine until you said, "Hey, thank you, pay up." Right? Well, this is what you're going to see more of, more and more and more. So you're going to have to be more diligent, have virus protection software out there, have backup solutions in place for your tools, have um, passwords, passcodes, right? Not passwords, passcodes. And what I mean by passcodes is if you're talking to somebody, make sure you have a way of identifying that you're talking to the real person. Because, by the way, AI is doing really good with mimicking voice these days. So it's hard to tell. So make sure you have those in place as well. So always make sure in the cybersecurity world you have cybersecurity plans and implementations that will help move things forward for you. Okay. Now, that was just a brief conversation. Throughout the year, we're going to get probably in a little more detail, a little bit more conversation about all of those in place. But I just wanted to give you the 5 things I think we should all be looking forward to and focusing on this year. AI, again, you're not going to get away from it. But I do think AR and VR conversations are going to become more of a player in there. And if you can be on the front of the bandwagon, it's going to be more and more helpful. Understanding that big data is where everything's at these days. Everybody is using big data to understand trends, um, motivations of the consuming public. It is there all day long. Our CRMs have capabilities like that. We got to use it authentically, but it is there. We also have blockchain conversations that are there. And again, that's really good to have in place. Again, it's going to help keep us safer and our clients safer on a daily basis as long as we are using it. And then at the same time, we have our cybersecurity. We're going to want to make sure we have for ourselves, for our office, for our clients, for our family, we have a cybersecurity plan in place and help make sure that is working for our clients. So with that, I appreciate your time and day, everybody. I hope you guys have an amazing 2024, and we will see you at the next video.